to bring on the positive vibe. Wherever we
All right, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Soul Purpose Show, seen every Saturday right here on In Touch News, internet radio, where everybody is a star. And as you can also see, these shows rebroadcast on our Facebook pages, the Soul Purpose Show. I think we're also live streaming on Instagram now. I am your host, Keith.
And I am Monica.
And we would like to thank you for tuning in today and always, which includes our show from last week, which was another installment of the Love Maze.
Yes.
We told everybody how to identify a good mate. And if I'm not mistaken, you went through the checklist, and the checklist showed that you've actually made a good choice.
Yes. It has absolutely demonstrated that. So my Instagram family, we're also streaming on Instagram. And so someone is calling me, because that's always what happens when you're attempting to do something on your phone. Someone will call and block the stream on Instagram. But anyway, I got my nails done for Juneteenth celebration. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. Happy Juneteenth and happy Father's Day weekend. I got my nails done yesterday. This is a creation of my brother and I. We tried to figure out kind of how we could celebrate, how I could celebrate. And anytime my brother and I's creative minds gets together, it always turns out. I got a black power fist on my thumb.
Yeah.
Power to the people.
Now, did your brother also put the colors on his fingernails as well?
I don't know. He didn't. We did not have that discussion, and he did not send me a picture of his nails. So I would presume that he probably did not.
And if he did, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
If he feels good, if that's the way he feels. This on this Juneteenth Father's Day weekend, it is his weekend. He can do what he feels. If that's what he floats his boat, then I absolutely am all for him. Expressing himself in any way he sees fit.
That's right. And are we talking about Father's Day today too?
We are going to be talking about Father's Day. Both of our fathers passed. Mine passed 11 years ago this year, and your dad's been gone for how long?
Oh my gosh, 30 years maybe? Long time.
So Father's Day. So I don't know, how old are you?
So yeah, probably about 30 years. About 30 years ago.
So Father's Day is it gets easier. Easy may not be the best word, but I celebrate it because of him, and I try to celebrate my brother and all the fathers in our circle. But the second half of the show, we're going to talk about Father's Day.
Yeah, we'll give a special tribute to our fathers, and hopefully we can both keep it together. But there was a very interesting string of events this week. But I want to first take a quick moment to give a heartfelt shout out to our executive producers at In Touch News. You all know her as media personality Tampa Bay Tammy, and her dashing and debonair husband, Daryl Johnson.
Happy, they celebrated 41 years of marriage.
Happy anniversary. Shout out to Black Love.
Yes. So congratulations, Tammy and Daryl. I am rocking my Juneteenth. As you all know, today is Juneteenth, yep. June 19th, 1865. And so we're going to get into Juneteenth a little bit. But I decided to rock my Juneteenth shirt. Kudos to Black Girl Speaks.
Oh, that's
who I purchased, who designed this, and I purchased this beautiful shirt from.
Very nice. And I'm deciding to represent my alma mater family. Why am I representing my alma mater family this week?
I don't know. Why were you representing your alma mater?
What did we get an opportunity to do last week? The other thing we did last week, where we were asked to MC the Q&A section of a fundraiser for our beloved alma mater.
Sure, for sure.
And so we had the athletic director and the three major sports coaches that we shot some questions and answers to, and we had a good time. And most importantly, we were able to raise
$25,500 and counting.
Over $25,000. So since they began the strike tour, since it started,
$75,000.
Well, not quite $75,000, but
$85,000.
Well, yeah, but here's the point, though. Here's the point. So Jacksonville represented. They came through. Orlando, I think, represented. They came through. Polk County came through, represented. But Tampa exceeded all of those. And,
so
we raised the most money.
So far. And so apparently Atlanta's up next. So Atlanta, you on deck. I'm looking at Instagram and I'm looking at Facebook. Atlanta Rattlers, y'all are on deck. Tampa has set the standard, $25,500. That is a challenge to see how much y'all can raise for the athletic fund. But I have no doubt that The Atlanta Rattlers are gonna come through. They're gonna knock it out the box.
They will. So the other thing, obviously, that happened this week, as my lovely wife alluded to, is the passage of the Juneteenth bill. So it actually passed the bill, and it has been signed into law. Right.
Correct.
So explain to everyone what that means.
So it effectively means that Juneteenth is now a federal holiday. So it's depending upon your company, because you don't have to. So, some companies don't, celebrate Martin Luther King holiday, which is also a federal holiday. So it is made Juneteenth a federal holiday. So it's
June 19th.
I'm sorry, Juneteenth, June 19th, a federal holiday. So I was off yesterday, paid time off yesterday. I know some other people were off yesterday. And so that's what that is. And
I was not off yesterday. And to your point, all companies are not going to celebrate Juneteenth with paid time off. The law does not require your employer to give you paid time off for holidays, but banks are closed and other
courts are closed. All federal governments and federal buildings are closed. And I would argue that you probably could take off for those people whose employers are not extending Juneteenth as a holiday. You may not get paid, but I would encourage you to take that day off.
You may not stay gainfully employed.
Why?
You don't just decide you're just gonna take the day off.
It's a personal day.
If I have PTO, it's a personal day. If you work for a private employer, you better get permission before you just go. I'm taking Juneteenth.
I'm taking Juneteenth off.
Keeping it real.
I'm taking Juneteenth off. I mean, I have it off, but I would take it off anyway. So that's what happened this week.
Yes, and it's interesting, and I know this was my comment, my public comment, and we're certainly interested in hearing how you guys feel about it. But I just thought it was real ironic how quickly, from the conversation of the introduction of the bill, obviously passed in the Senate first and then the House, and quickly signed into law by the president. This whole process took like a matter of days.
Yeah, when it
takes them usually months and months to get a bill from introduction to signed into law. So I have a feeling that maybe this was on the heels of all of this talk about education and
the critical race
theory.
So let me just put some things in perspective. And I saw your comment on Facebook. Critical race theory is the Republicans' latest boogeyman. And you can debate me, argue it, whatever your position is. I'm not nonpartisan. I'll just, perhaps the disclaimer at the beginning of this show is the views and opinions of this show may not necessarily be the views and opinions of In Touch News. These are mine. The whole critical race theory thing that the Republicans have created, it's not created, but they've made it this boogeyman for their base. It's a thing, but it's not a thing that impacts day-to-day. Your children are not going to be learning critical race theory in school. They're just not. Critical race theory legitimately is a class that is taught in law school. I don't even think it's taught in undergrad. There may be some critical race theorists in undergrad, but the first time I heard of critical race theory was in law school, and it's an elective course. So it's not a thing. It's not a thing that everybody needs to be afraid of. It's really something that the Republicans have created to be a boogeyman. It's just aligned with socialists. Democrats are socialist. Radical left. Welfare moms. It's a dog whistle. It's a dog whistle to their constituents.
So the only thing I'll disagree with you on is whether or not to be afraid of it. You should be afraid of critical race theory if your intent is to continue to pass on this false narrative that the reason why all of these disparities exist, including discrimination, including the wealth gap, including the unfair housing, and all of these disparities exist, can't be due to racism. Black people are oppressed because we're just, physiologically and genetically inferior. So if you believe that the truth should be held back from people learning that structurally within the fabric of our very laws that we follow and socioeconomic principles, it's been advantageous to one side versus the other. So if you're going to teach people, what we probably should have done. We should say, well, what is critical race theory? So critical race theory is a academic theoretical construct more than anything else. It simply acknowledges, we did a whole show on this one time, I think. It simply acknowledges that racism is institutionalized. In this country especially, it is within the fabric of our education system, our judicial system, on and on and on and on, which is why these disparities exist. So it's theoretical in that academicians like to point out examples of those things when they're trying to explain why things are the way they are, and that's what's created so much fear.
So I know here in this state there was this whole our governor. We don't want them teaching critical race theory
because it's divisive
in our class, to our students, because we don't want, this is what he said, I didn't say this, because we don't want white students feeling like guilty or feeling like, I don't know, victimized is not the word they use, but that was effectively what the whole push in this state for, anti-critical race theory. But they're not giving the full story. And so what I've shared repeatedly is to Dems, stop attaching and giving life to this boogeyman that they've created relative to, critical race theory is a bad thing and it's gonna harm your white children, because it's not a thing. So I will say this though, with the passage of the Juneteenth emancipation bill, and I may have the name incorrect, I've heard a lot of pushback from Black folks about their not disdain, but their disappointment in just the passage of the bill. So I've heard that a lot. Yeah. And so my response has been, and I was on Clubhouse, I'm in this Clubhouse room, Keep It Simple, early morning politicking. And one of my really good friends, Kristen, said, and I wholeheartedly agreed with her, this is what y'all asked for. Yep. Folks kept saying when Biden and VP Harris got into office, well, what are y'all going to do? What are y'all going to do? They're not doing anything for Black people. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything for Black people. They passed Congress passed the anti-hate Asian hate bill, which if you read it is really, it just essentially says that you can't engage in hate crimes against Asian people, which should not even have to be legislated, but it is. Right. So they were upset about the anti-Asian hate bill. Well, what have they ever done for us? And we don't have a hate bill, which is not true. We don't have a hate bill. We don't have a hate bill. What are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? And so now they've done something. They've passed a Juneteenth federal holiday. Yeah. We were celebrating it anyway, but now they've passed a Juneteenth federal holiday, made Juneteenth a federal holiday, and folks are still upset. Yeah. And I think a part of it is that perhaps people don't understand how legislation works. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that that's not the case, but that may be it, because the expectation, I think, Biden had been in office 7 months yet, right? And so he's just passed his first 90 days. Mm-hmm. So the notion that he'd be able to do all of this stuff that we want done within that time period, I think is a little naive. Mm-hmm. And legislation takes time. And we only have 50 senators, 2 of whom kind of are on the fence about whether or not they're going to join the Dems in their agenda. And so we only have 50 senators. It's hard to get things through the Senate. And we already know that Mitch McConnell has put his foot down and he's saying no to everything. I don't care what it is. I was actually very surprised that he voted for the Juneteenth bill and that passed unanimously, but I'm gonna get to that in a second. So Black folks were upset that Biden and Harris aren't doing anything. They're not doing anything. They help the Asians. They help the LGBTQ community. What are they gonna do for us? Then they do something for us, arguably, and then we still mad. And I think a part of it is, again, as I said, I don't think we really understand how legislation works. And I think we all need to go back and watch Schoolhouse Rock, I'm Just a Bill, and that's not even me trying to be funny. I think all of us should go back and recall on how bills have to get through committee. If they don't get through committee, they have to get to the floor. Or if they get through committee, they have to get to the floor. There's a whole long process, and legislation takes a long time to get through before it gets passed, before it gets to the president's desk. And so I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's cool that they made it a federal holiday. I wasn't necessarily super excited. I mean, I was okay with it because we were celebrating it anyway. Mm-hmm. But I do think that there are more things on the horizon. And I would like to say those people who are complaining about, this is just performative and this is a nothing burger. If next year this time we're still dealing with the same things, then let's have a conversation. But right now he's 6 months in, and I don't know if there's enough. He's doing things, but everything else takes time.
The other things are significantly more complicated.
They are more complicated,
including all of these voter suppression bills, which is what I'm calling them because that's what they are, that have launched all over the country, and the federal effort to try to supersede all of these various things. So that's going to be a lot more complicated.
Absolutely.
And a lot more significant, other than kind of public recognition for things, getting actual laws passed to protect people's right to vote. And ultimately protect.
And other things, there's criminal justice. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. Criminal justice reform, there's immigration issues. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of things that need to be done. I will say this though, the aside from the fact that more people are going to be aware of Juneteenth, and we'll be talking about
studying the history
of Juneteenth. I think that's a positive.
Yep.
The other thing that I think is a positive is the fact that Black-owned businesses have the ability to make a lot of money during Juneteenth. So I am encouraging people that if you're celebrating Juneteenth, to ensure that you are supporting a Black-owned business during that time. So
that's ally behavior. If you're an ally or an advocate, then this is an opportunity for you to intentionally celebrate.
So if you see, capitalism is real.
Mm-hmm.
So understand that Target and Walmart and all the rest of these big box stores, they're going to figure out a way to make this commodify, or if that's the word, I make that up.
They're going to be selling
Juneteenth things.
Sure.
So my suggestion is, no shade to them, but my recommendation would be, there are a lot of small-owned Black businesses, such as Black Girl Speaks, that are selling Juneteenth paraphernalia, that are selling art. There are lots of festivals going on this weekend where Black-owned businesses will be celebrated and highlighted. And so I encourage everybody today to go out, wherever you are, to a Juneteenth celebration and support Black-owned businesses, from the larger businesses to the mom and pops to the dude that's on the side of the road selling that really good barbecue, because frankly, that is the best barbecue. The barbecue's on the side of the road. So seriously, so do that this weekend. I think, I'm excited because I think more people are talking about it, which to me says that people have to acknowledge something that they don't like to acknowledge. We've always acknowledged slavery and its impact on our community generationally. Now Juneteenth is requiring other folks to speak it and to talk about slavery and to do research about Juneteenth. And then my hope is that by learning and researching it, you'll have a broader discussion about slavery and its impact on Black folks.
And at the end of the day, you cannot suppress theory, because it's theory. It's academic, just like you're learning other theories. We learn different economic theories in school. We learn different religious theories in school. It doesn't mean that kids get all confused, and it's just silly. We mentioned it today's special show because we're also going to explore other topics, and since we have the benefit of being together again this morning, because my wife is a star, she gets called upon to do all of these other things, and so sometimes she misses our show. We thought it's only fair to offer some additional relationship tips for couples who want to keep Black love strong.
This is a continuation of the Love Maze.
Yes.
We did last week.
Yes. So, I like giving people relationship advice.
Listen, and I would like the record to reflect that Keith and I do not have a perfect relationship by any stretch of the imagination. We get upon each other's nerves daily.
Especially this morning.
Yes. Hourly, daily. So I'm gonna give y'all so I've never taken pictures of what happens behind the scenes, and I'm gonna record it, like do a live behind the scenes when Keith is setting up our little in-house studio.
You have to get my permission to do that.
Well, no, I don't. So or maybe I do. I don't know. I'm not going to. I'm just gonna do a sneak attack. But he does the whole setup in here before the show. He worries me every Saturday about the camera, about making sure the laptop's charged, about can we stream on Facebook? Is it going to happen? We've done this for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Every Saturday you do the same
And we
thing.
have technical issues.
And that's fine, but you're gonna have technical issues. It's technology.
You have to be prepared.
So anyway, so right before, so we are all smiles, but typically right before we're fussing at each other because you do this, you get flustered every Saturday. Every Saturday. It's the same thing. Nothing changes. And if the technical difficulties, we'll still stream live.
Then people will stop watching.
They won't stop watching us because we're funny. And I think we're engaging. Don't y'all think if y'all on Instagram and y'all think we're engaging, and I can't see what's going on Facebook, y'all clap or something or do a heart if y'all are watching. I think we're very engaging.
I do too.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Black relationship goals. So we have 10 tips that we're going to share from you. Shout out to this Afrogist blog spot. It's not us. So we're actually using other people's stuff, but we'll use their tips and we'll infuse some of our own kind of personal context. But Afrogist, this one was called Black Relationship Goals, 10 tips for a successful Black relationship. And here, I'm gonna go ahead and give you the answer to the test up front. They're not just not just Black relationships. I mean, these are relationship tips, building blocks of successful relationships. It doesn't matter if you're Black or white, but this is.
I'm squinting because these are the wrong glasses. I thought these were my reading glasses, and they're not. So I'm going
to be reading the tips, and my wife is
Please
just going to be.
because I just have the answer because I can't see.
But the building blocks are you have to define your relationship. If you're going to have goals, then you have to define what your relationship means. And I don't know, how do we define our relationship? How would we define our relationship?
I told you before the show, complicated, but I was just joking.
Our relationship is complicated. That's how it's defined.
No, it's not. You think it's complicated?
It absolutely is. Our relationship is complicated because it's nuanced. I mean, it's not unusual, but we're not just your standard kind of garden variety relationship.
That's true. People
see us and they make assumptions and they think this or they think that or whatever. But I think for us though, it was, I guess from the very start though, it was
complicated from the very beginning.
It was complicated from the beginning, but I think you added the real context when you said, Keith, I think, God intends for us to be together. So regardless of what was happening around the relationship, it was still, we had that in common, right? So we absolutely believed that we were supposed to be together, or you believed it.
Yes, and I told you that.
And you
told me that you said,
because I'm a Christian and I didn't want to go to hell. So I was like, yes, I will marry you.
That's not what happened.
That's almost what happened.
That is not what happened. I told Keith early on, I said, the Lord told me that you're going to be my husband. And Keith said that he didn't tell me that. So that's what happened.
That's what happened.
That's what you said.
Communicate always. Communication communication is, now that's complicated because everybody doesn't communicate the same way.
But I want to go back real quick. I'm looking down because I'm trying to ensure our Facebook post is doing what it should be doing. I want to go back. I don't think our relationship is complicated now. I think, and we talked about this on a previous show, that I think our relationship is loving. I think it is full of comedy. I think it is full. There are some it's complicated just because we're a blended family. But other than that, I think those three things define it. Don't you think so? Or you just think it's complicated?
I think you're complicated. Communicate always. Communication is important. I go back to what my grandfather said. You got to have a good understanding, right? So, however you're going to, now our pastor is.
Hey, Pastor Charmaine.
So going back to my grandfather. You got to have a good understanding.
That's true.
However you're going to agree that you're going to communicate, then you have to commit to doing that. In our case, we text each other.
We talked about this last week. So, and we text each other.
Yes.
So we recognize that is not the best form of communication. We do talk live, but both of us are very verbose. And sometimes we don't listen sometimes we listen to respond versus
hearing, but we're not
versus listening to hear. And I know that I'm guilty of that. And I think a part of that is just me being a lawyer. So I'm listening like, okay, what flaws in your argument can I hear so I can attack the flaws, not really seeing the bigger picture. So
I shut down because I'm not on the witness stand.
I'll give you a perfect example. So, and I posted this on Facebook and I'm transparent. So when was that? Tuesday, Wednesday? We had a really big fight in the morning. Okay, so it's a swimming. Miles doesn't know how to swim. Our son doesn't know how to swim yet. He always wears his little life vest. He was invited to go with one of our friends' sons to do like a water park. And I said, that's cool, that's fine. But we need to get Miles back in swim lessons, which we'd already talked about. So I'm asking, keep asking me the question, is it cool if he does X? I had already responded and said, yes, it's cool. And so then I'm saying, but he needs swim lessons. And that question never got answered. And so our text conversation is also not good because you can't really understand tone. His interpretation of a tone in a text was not the tone that I intended to be. And so because he automatically had that in his spirit in terms of the tone I was coming to him in, which was not accurate, when I asked him the question verbally, then he got upset.
Yes, because at the end of the day, the exchange was around your trying to express concern if he's going to go swimming to make sure he's safe.
Correct.
That was your concern.
Correct.
And that's what I knew that. But your line of questioning was like, is so-and-so going to teach him how to swim? Did he agree? Did he or did he not agree to give Miles swim? I'm like,
that's not the tone.
So here's the takeaway. The takeaway is you really do have to. Communication means that you have to kind of say how you feel about things. Like you don't question people with the expectation of trying to solicit some kind of response. You have to say what's on your heart, which is eventually. I think that was the email that I sent you.
You did send me the email. Which is true.
Say what's on your heart, and if you do that, then that. Again,
we can work on our communication, because for me, I'm not necessarily a feeling person, and again, I have a lot to do with me, what I do every day. My desire is to get to the answer, which is the end goal for me is he going to get swimming lessons? So whatever questions
but that wasn't the end.
That was the end goal for me. So my end goal was to determine whether or not he's going to get swim lessons. And so all the questions that I asked, which were never answered directly, were to get that end goal. That's not where he was. His focus was trying to see if this child could go play with the young man, with the other little boy, which is fine, but I'd already answered that question. So yes. So communicate always, we do. We may not do it effectively.
That's for sure.
We don't do it effectively. And because we don't do it effectively, we always have to go to our separate corners, calm down, and then reconnect.
That's correct. And you know what? And that's a good understanding. That's our understanding. Our understanding is we're going to fight, and we have to learn how to fight fair, and we have to learn.
I think we fight fair,
and we have to learn how to figure out how to reconnect in a safe space.
Yeah. So our communication needs work for sure. We recognize
our last couple of tips in terms of establishing the foundation is one is dialogue, don't debate, which we fail miserably at all the time because we just debate all the time. And the other one is appreciate differences, which is interesting because that's what we're kind of talking about now, that we have a difference in how we perceive these, miscommunications or what I thought you were saying versus what you were trying to convey. And we communicate differently.
And Keith is a feeler in terms of.
That's not true at all.
That is true. That is true. You are a feeler in terms of how you communicate. You are. You in terms of how you receive communication and how you communicate.
What you're trying to say is I'm sensitive.
You're a feeler.
But I'm not a feeler at all.
Okay, well, sensitive, whatever tomato.
I'm intuitive, and then the God has given me the spirit of discernment. So when I'm hearing what she's saying, I'm looking through her.
And the problem is that I don't
what she's trying to get me to do.
I don't communicate in a feeling way, because that's just not how I'm wired. Blame law school. So I'm communicating in a way to get an end result. So if I ask, you don't have to. I said this last week. Mm-hmm. You don't have to interpret anything that I say, because I say what I mean. You may not like it, but I say what I mean. You don't have to interpret it. There's no gray area. It is black and white. I said it, and I meant it.
And you went to law school.
I did.
You were trained on how to interrogate people. Let me explain something.
I'm not interrogating you.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not on the witness stand. I'm not on the witness stand. You don't have to go through a series of questions. Just say what's on your mind, and just go with that. Because Because eventually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shut down.
You did.
I'm not, I don't, and I don't feel any obligation to answer your questions, which irritates you even more because now I'm not answering your questions and we're not communicating. So anyway, but you have to have an understanding of how. So
Deidre Martin, if you're watching, or if you all know of a therapist that's relatively inexpensive, please, you got to come in because they can't see on Instagram.
Oh,
so you need to please help us. Please offer your assistance because we said that when we got married, we were not getting a divorce, and we don't want our lack of communication to be the reason why we change that rule.
And these are my words. Monica's good about it. This is just a fight. We just fighting. There's no divorce. Like that's not it. This is a fight, and we just got to figure it out. So listen, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we may give you some more relationship tips.
Maybe not.
Or not. but we're going to close our show today with a special tribute to our late father. So please stay tuned. This is the Soul Purpose Show. We'll see you on the other side.
Wherever we go, we are about to bring on the positive vibe. Wherever we go, we are gonna do what makes us feel right.
Touch Radio, where everybody, and we do mean everybody, is a star. In Touch Radio.
Don't miss the first annual Amateur Grillers Cook-Off coming to the Tampa Bay area on Labor Day weekend, September the 5th. Hosted by the Dr. K.C. Patel High School, located at 10721 Rollison Ranch Road, right here in Tampa, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. There will be a $500 cash prize to the best amateur griller. If you feel that you've got the skills, then you need to bring your grill. It doesn't matter how big or how small. You can drive it up, push it up, pull it up, or even let grandma and grandpa help you set it up. Just bring the entire family out and enjoy some of the finest amateur grill meats. Sample the sauce and find out who has the best sauce. Bring your meat and put it on a plate, and let's see if you have what it takes. For vendors information, text 813-965-4456.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Wherever we go, we are about to bring on the positive vibe.
Sometimes you should be. Sometimes you should be on the witness stand. But sometimes you need to be on the witness stand because it's unclear. If it's a question that I have, so you want me to change how hi everybody, we're back. So we're talking to our Instagram family. We were just continuing with the dialogue about what we talked about when we went to break, which was our failure to communicate.
About communication.
And we still are not communicating well. And we actually got some suggestions on therapists.
So we have people giving us couples advice, giving us referrals of counselors who can help save our marriage. Apply these tips to reach your relationship goals. One, maintain financial peace. We fail there too.
No, we never fight about money.
We don't. We go in our separate corners, and you do your thing, and you spend it the way you spend your money on. I spend my.
All bills are paid. All bills are paid.
It's not financial peace though, because we're not like it's not a goal that we have together.
So I will say this. I think a lot of that has to do with life experience. So I remember seeing my parents, and I think most couples fight about finances. And I just remember seeing my parents, they didn't really fuss a lot, but when they did fuss, the things they fussed about were finances. And so I think probably internally, I said to myself that when I get married, that's not going to be, we're not going to fight about money. And so we don't fight about money.
And we don't
fight about money. So I think we probably could be better spenders. We do have conversations, like we have a household budget. So we kind of know, keep us very good at that, about kind of we know kind of how things need to be spent and kind of how things are covered and the major, like, the major expenses that we have to handle to make sure all those things are covered.
And we believe in tithing.
And
I'm not just saying that because
it's the truth. We do. I actually have to do my tithe. So we've never done that. So do what works for you. I know that there is a rule of, there's a thought that, married couples should combine their finances. Prevailing wisdom says that's we have not. We probably should, but we have not. But we've never thought about money. Yeah. So
we'll get there. I think at some point though we'll get there. We're certainly not going to get to all of the tips. I do want to. Tip number 3 is apologize. That was huge.
Yes.
Apologize. That was huge. Apologizing takes humility, and when you have 2 strong-willed people who believe that they're right all of the time.
Both people can't be right. There's the truth in there somewhere.
You have to apologize. This is another understanding that the 2 of us have, because we both go from 0 to 1,000, and we'll stay there for a while. Monica is good at recognizing her role in our relationship, which is, look, one of us has to de-escalate. And so sometimes she will apologize just to de-escalate. And that's important also.
It's hard though.
It's hard, but it makes me also apologize as well. But that's a part of the humility that we exercise, because what we understand is we're just fighting. We hurt each other's feelings, and it's a fight, and it's not like some malicious, like we're really, really trying.
And you can't take words back. So I'm also aware that we fight hard. I know I can fight hard. I'm sure that he probably can too. And so when you're fighting hard, in the midst of fighting hard, you can say some things that, because you're a couple, so weak spots in your significant other. And so I know the things that will trigger Keith. I know the things that will really cut to the core. And I could, because frankly, I'm wired. I'm not, I'm petty like that. Let's just be clear.
And you get paid to.
And I get paid. And my job is to find the weaknesses in someone in an argument and then dig. But in a relationship, that's not helpful. And it's, despite how petty I can be, it doesn't, at the end of the day, you can't take words back. So somebody has to walk away. So typically I will walk away and let him fuss and mumble to himself, and then he'll figure it out.
Then I'll figure out, which really kind of leads us to the other tip, which is respect. And you have to have a mutual respect for one another, but you also have to have a respect for your partner, such that you understand that in a disagreement, it's a disagreement. It's not a fight because I want to see you hurt. I want to see you injured. I want to see you battered and bruised. Like, you have to say, look, I respect you. I'm going to walk away and gather myself and do whatever, and not say that other thing because of the level of respect.
Agreed.
So I just take me a couple little shots, a couple little jabs, and then go and then.
And the thing about it is, Keith will make his jabs. And I don't really consider them jabs. He's a very dry. People who know my husband has a very dry sense of humor. Some would call it witty. I call it annoying at times. Everybody else laughs. I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't really that funny, but everybody else laughs at him. So,
which is all that's important.
Right. So,
my fans.
Right. So I'll give an example. So when we first, and this is still respectful. I actually had a conversation with some people about this, about how we met, or how I knew that you were the person. So Keith and I were arguing about lyrics to a song, and I don't remember the lyric. I don't remember the song. I put it out of my mind because I was wrong. But I don't remember the song, and I'm sure that you do remember the song.
I don't remember.
But we were debating about the lyrics to a song, and I swore I was right. I was like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Again, we're both type A personalities. And my brother was in town. I think my sister was here too. And we were all going to a jazz festival. And Keith was driving. And so I'm in the back seat. My brother's in the front. And so Keith passes a piece of paper behind to me in the back seat.
Think I was driving.
Maybe you weren't driving.
I was a passenger.
Maybe my brother was driving. Somebody was driving. I was not driving. All I know is that I was passed some paper, a folded up piece of paper. I open up the paper. It is the lyrics to the song that we had been debating. And this man has highlighted the lyrics that we were debating. And it turns out that he was correct.
As I am most of the time.
You're not, but in this particular instance, you were. And so I said nothing, which is unusual for people, is usual for me, for those who know me. I always have a response. Then his response was, and don't question me again. Joking, my brother cracked up, my sister cracked up. Now, to the outside person, a man telling a woman, don't question me again, could really be seen as really offensive and really disrespectful, since we're talking about respect. I didn't say anything because I couldn't, because I was wrong. I didn't interpret it as disrespectful.
No, because it wasn't disrespectful.
Because it wasn't meant to be disrespectful. I think sometimes
your brother knew.
Yeah, I think
this was who you were dealing. This was who you were going to be dealing with.
So I think at times, sometimes we can interpret things as being disrespectful that really aren't. To others that may have been deemed disrespectful, I thought it was actually very funny and witty of him. I did not say anything because I could not say anything. But the thing that I did appreciate in that moment was that Keith was able to handle my big personality, because everybody's not able to handle. I
think that's what your brother.
Yeah, I am a fighter, and I'm going to tell you how I feel, and it may not come across the best, and all guys can't handle that. I'm fiery, but he respects that. I also respect him, and I do appreciate the fact that he allows Monica to be Monica authentically, completely, and wholly. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And at the end of the day, I think in this particular instance, it was a song. It was an older song. It was probably more my era than it was your era, and that's why I was like, I have 10 years of music. So what? Just because you got 10 years of it, but you think experience. Why would you question?
Because sometimes you're wrong. You got song lyrics wrong before too.
Okay.
Right. I don't remember what the song was, and I intentionally put it out of my mind because I was wrong. So perhaps, you don't remember it either, so it must not have been that important. But anyway. Okay, so what are we doing now?
So we're gonna give some. First of all, we're gonna give tribute. A shout out to all fathers.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there listening. We respect you, King, and we absolutely want to. And we hope and pray that you have a great day tomorrow. But we thought it would be fitting, given the timing, to share some lessons from our fathers. Our fathers for us, was the world. Like, we really, really have a lot of admiration for our respective fathers. And we never met each other's fathers.
We did not.
And we talk about him a lot, and we know him. So I feel his presence in your life, and who made you and what made you. And I actually feel that, and hopefully you do the same. So we just thought it would be cool if we talked about some of the lessons. So
yes. So I did not put a list together, so I can just say generally the things that my father. So happy.
Miles, we have to go back and
Happy Father's Day, everybody. So our little son is here. Here, baby. Here, you can have it. Sorry, this is real life. We do this in our house with the 5-year-old.
He said, "But where's the tablet?"
He wants this tablet. Here you go, sir. Take this very much. He was not going to leave until he got tablet. There you go. Goodbye. Love you.
Please continue.
Close the door. So my father sent us our son.
Yes.
Because he is my daddy. He is, in terms, their birthdays are 2 days apart. And in terms of just his, I don't want to call it stubbornness, but that's the only word that's coming to me right now. Mm-hmm. He got all of it. He is my father, true. Yeah. But in terms of just being a man of your word. So if my father said something, you could bet your bottom dollar that he meant it, or he was going to. I know this is aggravating you. I'm sorry. That you can bet your bottom dollar that he was going to follow through with it. So if his thing was, your word is your bond. Your word is all you have. And so you should follow through with that. And my dad was really loyal, sometimes loyal to a fault. So my dad was a really, really good friend. I think I get that from him in terms of being there for his friends and his family. My father absolutely was that person. My father also, there were 3 of us. The 2 oldest are girls and the youngest is a boy. My dad was unapologetic in his, particularly in that generation where, there's a lot of patriarchy and misogyny, maybe not so much, but there's some of it, but definitely patriarchy. And he still encouraged both of his daughters to be proud, Black, outspoken women, right? It wasn't something that he ever told us not to do. So he didn't want us to be lawyers because he recognized how hard that was to balance if you wanted to be married with children, and it is. But when we said that we wanted to do it, he didn't discourage us. He encouraged us to be our best selves. And he was my hanging buddy. We watched football together. He tried to get me to play golf. I was out on the golf course a couple times, but he was a true girl dad in terms of just celebrating his daughters, being excited about all of his daughters' achievements. And I think the biggest compliment given to us after my father passed was, we were actually talking to Erica, my mom. Erica and I were actually telling my mom this the other day. I would go to National Bar Association conferences with my father, and the National Bar Association is the National Black Bar. So it's a group of Black lawyers. And they have the conferences are every year, and they're in different cities. And so I would go be the child that went to the National Bar Association conferences with my dad. And I remember after my dad passed, Eric and I went to the Florida Bar chapter meeting here. It wasn't in Tampa, but it was in Florida. And every single female attorney walked up to my sister and I and said, offered condolences, but said, your father treated us as professionals all the time. He was never inappropriate. Not suggesting that the other men were. Just men in general. Sure. Y'all can be gross. Regardless of the profession, y'all can be gross. And take advantage of opportunities and take advantage of situations. But all of them felt compelled to come to my sister and I and say that your father was a consummate professional. He treated us as equals. He never talked down to us. He never was patronizing. He would, call on us for our expertise, just always a gentleman. And that meant a lot to me and my sister because that's who we saw our father as. And the other thing is at his services, one of the things that somebody said, I don't remember who this was, it may have been Camila's father, said that his greatest legacy of all the accolades that my father, they talked about in his funeral program, and you were there, and just all the different things that people talked about in terms of my father professionally. Justice Perry said that his greatest legacy was the three of us, and he talked about us all the time and how proud he was of us all the time. And the last thing I'll say is, because you got time, it's only 11:46. Sorry about that. Please continue. Okay, sorry. The last thing I will say is that I believe that men of equally yoked is not the right word, but men who are similar in nature, similar in character, similar in just similar in character, all hang together, and they find themselves. So you have your male friendship groups. My dad was a Q, and he had, he's a Q member, Boule. He had all of those people too, but the people that he connected with within those organizations and outside those organizations, all of them are very similar in terms of their demeanor, in terms of their character, in terms of just the type of men they are. And so my father passed, the first couple of Father's Days, I went and I got a card, and I sent a card to all of those men to just say thank you for being an extension. Because the first year is hard. It's still hard. Or that first year, so I'm thinking specifically one of my really good girlfriends who lost her father this past year. And this is the first a couple of friends, this is their first Father's Day without their father. And so the first Father's Day is very challenging. The others get easier. But for the first couple of years, I was so thankful for my father's friends who in that first year after my father passed, continued to reach out to my sister and I and my brother just to check on us. And three of them have been consistent. All of them check on us, but Mr. Stewart calls me regularly. Camila's father will ask about me regularly, and Judge Thompson over in Orlando will check on us regularly. And so even though my dad is not here, he was, in God's infinite wisdom, connected him to men who were able to touch and agree and check on his legacies long after he passed. And so I think it's important for men that you surround yourself with those type of brothers that will look after your family and your flock when you leave. And my dad did a phenomenal job of that.
I would agree, and I've seen that since we've been together. I've actually seen that level of engagement from those men, and I appreciate that. I think, and my dad taught me several things, but one of the most significant lessons, which is a part of what you touched on, is you put God first. And he did that by what he demonstrated. Not that he, drug me and my brother off to church every day, but certainly he lived a life that centered around his service to others. So put God first, and then family next. So there was a priority system that was very clear in our house, and that was, and I took that with me. He did believe in giving back. That was another lesson. He showed us more than he told us to do it. Like he would do it and not seek any accolades. And I didn't actually find out until later in life about everything that he was involved with. The prison ministries and guardian ad litem program. So he believed in giving back. He believed in to whom much is given, much is required. So probably the most significant lesson. And this is really a shout out to my grandfather as well. And I live by this. I live by this myself, and I also live by this when it comes to, kind of coaching women, single women, about men. And that is, a man is what he does, more so than what he says, because we're talkers, and we're hunters, and so we go after things in order to get what we want. We have the gift of gab a lot of times, and so. You have to always, when you talk about that character, the character is not just, oh, I loved your dad, he was a good guy. Character is a year after he passes to call and check on, his daughters and see how you're doing. And they do the same with your mom. Call and check on people. So it's not about what you say when people are alive. It's about what you do. In this instance, it's about what you do. So that's a real takeaway for me about manhood is, do more than you say. And there are others. One of my favorites, I'll just share a quick story, is around respect, right? Respect your mom. Like I learned that from my dad. Respect, you need to have respect for your mom. And even though he was pretty clear about, he and I weren't friends, he was still my dad, that he was still my parent. He had every right and responsibility as my parent. He knew that the relationship was going to be different, with my mom, and that my mom needed to be honored in our house. And the fact that she was a honorable person means that you needed to honor her. So anyway, so as a teenager, he came home one time and caught some little girl in the house. We were all the way back in the bedroom when he came home, and I heard him come in. I was like, oh my gosh. So she got up and she ran and went to the bathroom, and I did whatever. I ran out to meet him, and I was terrified. I was petrified. I didn't know what he was going to say, what he was going to do. He didn't necessarily see anything, but it was still just the fact that he knows that me and this little girl are back in the bedroom, and so I said, well, I guess I'll go ahead and drop her off home, and so I did. So I got in the car. I was already driving by that time. I got in the car, I took her back home, and when I got back home, my mom still had not come home yet. And I walked in the door, and he was there, and I looked him in the eyes, and he said, "You better be glad your mother wasn't here." And that's all. And that's all. That's all he said. And that's all he needed to say. Yeah. Because he wasn't gonna try to holier than thou kind of approach, and he probably would have had a different tact if my mom was with him, because he would have needed to demonstrate to her that, this ain't good. Like, this is not good. It was unexpected. I just didn't expect for him to come home. But anyway, it's kind of a trivial example. What I took from that, and I could share another story, but I'm going to save that one. But I took from that, your mom is to be honored in this house at all times. And it's important. And so respect for your mom. But I will say one last takeaway, and that is, and it is a story. I remember when I went off to college, and I was always broke, and they would send money like, and this is, I'm dating myself. So, my parents would literally send like $25, like $25, $30 in money orders because there was no electronic transfer.
Yeah, come over. Come close.
No electronic transfer during that time. So, so every, couple of months or so, I'd get like $30. Be like, I need some money. I need money. So I was always begging for money.
How far did $30 go?
We made it work.
Yeah. Okay,
we
go
made
ahead.
it work. In Tallahassee, you had all you can eat.
Yeah, you're right.
So anyway, so fast forward to, I was dating, had a girlfriend in college, and came home one time to visit. And my dad called me back to the room, and he said, "You need some money?" He says, "Yeah, Dad, I need some money." He says, I know you need money." He says, "You got a woman." And if you got a woman,
you need money.
You need money. And he said, "Don't tell your mama." And he gave me $30. And it was like, again, it was one of those lessons in life. I carried with me that he understood that. And he wanted me to understand that, let this be a lesson, that if you're going to call yourself going with somebody,
you need some money in your pocket.
You're going to have some money in your pocket. So
that's interesting. I'm listening. You done with your list?
I'm done.
Okay. So we have 3 minutes left of the show. It's so interesting to hear. I'm reading your list as you're saying your list. And there are a lot of similarities, but even though our fathers didn't meet and we never met each other's fathers, there are a lot of similarities between our dads in terms of putting God first and, giving back, to whom much is given, much is required. That was something my dad said frequently. But that putting money in your pocket, he told my sister and I that.
Yeah.
Don't you go out with no boy without at least a quarter. At least have a quarter. This is when you get payphones were. So,
yes, you can call.
So, you call somebody, make sure you got a quarter in your pocket or whatever amount of change you need to make a phone call in case he start acting crazy. So, and my dad was about that life. So, if one of us called because some young man was acting inappropriate, my dad would get in a car and drive anywhere his girls were. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So but I'm reading the list and our fathers were very, very similar. So the Lord connected us for a reason, my love, even though you don't listen to me, you don't answer my questions.
But I think there was a kinship there, though, probably based on a lot of these things.
I agree.
Even though we didn't talk about them in detail before we were married, we just trusted that this was going to be the foundation, that we were like spirits and from like backgrounds, etc.
So I'm certain that my father's in heaven apologizing frequently to your dad. Like, I'm sorry, man.
For what I created. That mouth.
My bad. Yeah, it's that
mouth.
It's this. That's always gotten me in trouble.
Well, one of the final things, lessons that my dad taught me was work, right? So I think that having a strong work ethic and always getting up in the morning and going to work was something that I was able to see him do for many, many, many years. But the last thing I will share with the audience, and it's probably appropriate, is that as a little kid, I was a little shy and I didn't want to talk to people. And he's like, "Boy, open your mouth and tell the people what you want." And so I've actually carried that with me. I don't always do it. I kind of usually will, think things through first. But to that end, we just want to thank everybody for joining us. This is the Soul Purpose Show. We want you to like us. We want you to follow us on In Touch News.
Yeah, look at the Instagram people too.
We want you to follow us on Instagram. We have enjoyed this time together with you, and we want you to and give us feedback and let us know if there's topics that you want us to cover. By all means, we might do it.
Yeah, we may. So happy Juneteenth again. Go out and support a Black-owned business today. Go to whatever festival is in your town.
Happy Father's
Day. Hug and love one, the dads in your life. If your father is not here, just reflect upon all of the wonderful things.
And listen to some good music. June is Celebrate Black Music Month.
Yep.
Black Music Month.
It's blackity black this month.
Everything's black. Everything's black.
All right, y'all. We'll see you next Saturday.
Peace.
All right.
No avail, I had to set sail. When I'm trying to get downtown, chasing my love that's way across town. From place to place, gotta be in this party space. Can't wait to see her face.
Wherever we go, we about to bring on the positive